everybody here today. Tim, would you do our invocation?
Absolutely. For this beautiful day, Heavenly Father, that's kind of given us a little bit of a taste of fall, we give you thanks. We thank you for the wonderful meal and for Ray and Veronica being here to serve and prepare it for us. We thank you, Heavenly Father, for all the opportunities that we have to embody what this club stands for, service above self. And we just pray that when we have those opportunities, we be found faithful. It is in your name that we pray. Amen.
No. If you'll join me in the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated. John, do you have something for us today?
Sure.
And since we had a board meeting today, we're just passing the mic.
And what does this do, y'all?
Good
Good.
Thank you, John. Those are just the sponsor forms,
Oh.
not tickets. Yes, yes. Although that would have been great. Do we have any, my announcements today are just two. Miss Edie let me know earlier today that Rotary Reader starts on October the 14th at 10 a.m. And where is that location? Is it the Prep Academy?
The old Sanders Head Start.
Head Start. Okay, thank you. Head Start.
What time did you say?
10 a.m. And that starts October the 14th.
Is that every Monday?
And that's,
Or sometimes that?
I never did hear
Tuesday,
that.
okay.
Edie, is that once a month? Once a
I didn't
month.
know before I said it, it's on the details.
Thank you. And next weekend is our duck race. We should have our tickets available. Well, let me rephrase that. Next weekend is Squealing on the Square. We will need volunteers to man the booth on the square on Friday evening and Saturday. Friday the 17th is from 2 to 8, I believe, and the 18th, Saturday is from 10 to 5, maybe. 10 to 6 on Saturday. So we're doing 2-hour increments. There's a sign-up sheet going around, so if you could do that. We will have our tickets here next week for Rotarians to get their allotment of tickets to sell. And what we're going to do is not do the race on the day of Squealing Weekend, but we're going to do that right now on November the 6th, and we'll do it during our time together. So I'll provide some more information about that, but the most important thing right now is to sign up for next Friday, Saturday, if you can. And are there any announcements from you guys? Anything anyone needs to share? Okay. And now I will call up Mr. Bill to introduce our speaker for the day.
Good evening. Today we have with us Dean Hybl, who is the Executive Director of the Untitled Chapter organization. He's been with them since they started in the upstate, and Dean is a recipient of the Welling Award for Regional Collaboration in the Upstate for Edwards Land Planning Award, as well as many other awards. He's as a member of multiple organizations and boards across the upstate. Prior to joining Tenant the Top, he spent 5 years in the Orlando, Florida region working in that area, and he has spent the first 15 years of his professional life dealing with sports information and college athletics. He was sports information director at Hampton-Sydney College and assistant athletic director at Rollins College. Originally from Hughesville, Virginia, Dean is a graduate of James Madison University. He was married to his wife Susie for 26 years before passing following a brief illness in May of 23. He currently resides in Greer with his 2 children, Bethany and Nate. Join me in welcoming to the larger Rotary
right, hello everybody. All right, I have spoken to this group a couple times back when you were meeting in town. How many of you remember that? Oh, good. So y'all can go home, you're done. No, I put always something new going on. So for those who are not familiar, 10 at the top stands for the 10 counties at the top of South Carolina, both in terms of geography, but we also believe in terms of success. So earlier this year on April 1st, you noticed that day, we put out a social media post that said we were moving to Charleston to help them and forming 10 at the bottom. Somehow they didn't see that as being as funny as we thought it was. But anyway, so glad to be with you, and I'll share a little bit about our organization, kind of about the upstate a bit. And show of hands, how many of you were born and raised and lived here most of your life? Okay, so about 60%. And how many of you have been here less than 10 years? Okay, so 2. All right, I've been here 15, so I'm here a little bit longer. But whether you've been here less than 10 years or whether you've grown up here and your entire life, hopefully you have the same opinion a lot of the folks who we've talked to over the years have, which is this is a special place to live. There's a lot of positive things, a lot of good things about living here. And so the idea of 10 at the top and of how we're growing as a community and as a region has never been about, well, we've got a lot of terrible things that we've got to fix. It's about how do we make sure that we are taking care of what we have while continuing to grow economically as a community, as part of South Carolina, and making sure that everybody who lives here has the opportunity to be successful. So it isn't from what I would call weakness, it's really from strength that we are as a community. And if you look at this slide, it really illustrates that the country is continuing to grow. The numbers with things going on at a national level always are a little bit wonky and change, but one thing is not changing, and that's the amount of the population of the country that is living in the south or the southeast is growing. 37%, 36.9 in 2020, and projected to be basically 40% by 2050 living in the south, which is amazing. And of that, a good bit is in what we call the Piedmont Atlantic region, which runs from Raleigh-Durham through Charlotte, through the upstate of South Carolina, down to Atlanta, and then up to Birmingham and Chattanooga. So that you can see, if you see the circle there, that's the Piedmont Atlantic region. And from an economic standpoint, it is the fastest growing mega region economically in the United States. We have about 22 million residents in 2020 and projected to have over 30 million by 2040 in that corridor. And so what that shows is that we are living in a prime area of growth. And so how do we make sure that we are not being having our future kind of chosen by the growth, but we are the ones who are really impacting and making sure that we're keeping the things we like and we're continuing to grow in a positive way. This is how growth specifically looks in the upstate region, and I know those numbers are a little bit hard probably to read from where you are, but you can see that we are continuing to grow to where by 2040 we're projected to have 1.85 million people in this region. And so, it has been a steady growth. As mentioned, I came from the Orlando region in the Central Florida, Orlando area, and interestingly enough,
there were actually more people living here in 1950 than lived in that region, if you can believe it. What happened in that region was three things. Mosquito repellent, air conditioning, and then they had the invasion of a mouse. And those three things in Central Florida turned that sleepy region into explosive growth. And they still have not recovered from a growth standpoint. So here, our growth has been much more steady. It's been about 150, 200, 250,000 residents every 2 decades. So while it's impactful for us here, it is not at the level of in Orlando, where they just, plus they have 50 million visitors a year that come for tourism. So, we are in a place where we can manage and control some of that growth and how it impacts us as a community. And you all certainly here in Lawrence County know, because you're seeing it same as in Greenville and Greenwood and Spartanburg, some of the other places, that growth, it isn't like it's hypothetical that maybe it'll come. It's here now. This is, U-Haul every year does a ranking of the 50 states in terms of who's having the most inbound trips for their U-Haul vehicles and stuff. And South Carolina has ranked in the top 5 for the last decade or so. And this year, for the first time, we actually moved to number 1. So more U-Haul inbound trips are happening to South Carolina than any other place in the United States. And both Greenville in the overall top tier cities ranks number 10, and Spartanburg for the mid-sized cities ranks number 11. So our region is getting a lot of that growth, and it's something that there's always concern about growth, but the reality is, if you're growing from a resident standpoint, you're also growing typically from an economic standpoint. So it provides more opportunities and more chances for things to happen. And we'll talk about some of that here in a few minutes. But 10 at the Top, as I mentioned, is a regional organization. So we focus on the 10 counties of the upstate, and we partner with others. We are more of the community development type organization. You may be familiar with Upstate Alliance, which is a marketing and economic development marketing organization for the 10 counties of the region. And all of us, are focused on how we can work collaboratively across our communities to make the upstate a better place to live, to learn, to do business, and to raise a family. And there are many reasons for that. But collaboration and working regionally does not impact in a negative way the desire for each of our communities to still be doing things to make themselves better. Here in Lawrence, I've been coming now for 15 years and to this area, and y'all have a lot of great things happening, and continue to grow, and that's important. It's important for every community to be doing what they need to work to make themselves better, but not in isolation. Because when you work collaboratively, like we've worked with Courtney and other folks, Jeff Field, who is on my board, who's not here today, with the water and sewer, and others have worked with other partners across the upstate region because, sharing the best practices, when there's opportunities for resources that can be leveraged at a regional scale, or other things like transportation or education, there are pieces that are important to work on from or think about from more of the regional standpoint than at just the individual city local standpoint. So we've been around. This is slides from last year. So you can put a 6 where the 5 is. And so we're celebrating our 16th anniversary this year. We've been here for 16 years. as a regional convener and connector around issues that impact economic vitality and quality of life. And so what we do is we focus on connecting people and resources, on collaboration, on communication, and convening, all with the goal of creating and strengthening our collective capacity as an upstate region, collective capacity for individual communities, collective capacity for organizations, and all of those pieces. Some of you may have been in this room in 2019. If you'll remember, we hosted, in partnership with the Chamber, as part of our 10th anniversary year, we did workshops in every community, and in this exact room, we hosted a workshop to start Lawrence looking at visioning for the local community and how you could work towards passing your penny sales tax that you used, that succeeded the next year and which has been used to help grow and revitalize your community. And so I remember we had over 100 people in this room, and put up things on sticky notes on the wall, and everybody was talking about what the future could be like here in Lawrence. And then you guys went out in the middle of a pandemic and passed a referendum, which is amazing, to help your community grow and be stronger. And so we played a very small part in that, just to help you, brought in some speakers who had done that kind of thing in other communities, and then you guys took and ran with it. And that's really a lot of what we do. We want to help at various points to help you be successful, and then you go out and have the success. And I think Lawrence is really, in my time here, been a community that has done a lot of that. So I commend you for all the positive things that you do. And I mentioned, so our organization, our timeline, the idea started actually about 20 years ago, and we've been an official organization for 15 years. So the first thing we did when I got here in 2010 is we held meetings all over the upstate, including a number of meetings here in Lawrence County, where we asked more than 10,000 people what was important to them, what mattered as we look towards the future and future growth in the upstate region. And we came up with this mission statement or vision statement that we still focus on today, that the 10-county upstate region is universally recognized as a leading place to live, learn, do business, and raise a family. Well, it's now dawning on me very abruptly that we're a whole lot closer to 2030 than we are to 2010. So, now that we're starting to talk about, okay, what's next? What's the future look like? And how have we done as a region around some of these issues? And I think in some areas we've done very well. There's a lot of strengths and positives economically, especially as other parts of the country have struggled. This region has not at the same level struggled. So there's a lot of positive things, but there's still a lot of things that we have to continue to work on and grow. So, that's important for all of us to be part of. And we focus around 5, what we call our driver areas: human potential, economic and entrepreneurial vitality, sustainable growth, natural beauty and resources, and community vibrancy. And community vibrancy includes a program called the Hughes Investment Elevate Upstate Grants. And the city of Lawrence has actually holds the record for having won that grant the most. They've won it 3 times when Jonathan Ilrick was the Main Street person there. And the first one was for Finally Friday, which was a once-a-month music thing, which I understand now is done every week, right? So that's pretty cool how it started with, with the grant to get music on the square once a month, and now it's something that y'all do all the time. And then you won it 2 other times. I can't remember what the projects are off the top of my head, but the point is that is one of the pieces that is a focus for the upstate and for the work that we do, is how to help local communities to grow their vibrancy and their spirit. I know Clinton has won the award as well a couple times. So, you know, y'all have some of the really nice downtowns that are part of the upstate in our region. We work on a wide array of initiatives. These are some of the things we've worked on over the years. I'm not gonna go into them specifically. What I want to talk about in my last couple minutes is 3 specific initiatives that we're engaged with right now. The first one is something we've been working with the Department of Public Health on for about 3 years now, and the South Carolina Office of Rural Health relating to mental health, behavioral health. In South Carolina, more than 28% of all residents, adult residents in the upstate, report some feeling of depression at least 20 days a month. Think about that. 1 in 4 adults in this region have some sense of depression at least 20 days a month, so pretty regular.
How's that fair? Charlie Clark's depression.
Well, the rate for the state of South Carolina is 22%. So our rate is higher here in the upstate. The national rate, I think, is around 25%. So our percentage is higher. And what's even worse than the numbers as it relates to depression is the suicide rates. So for people between the age of 10 and 34, okay, 10 and 34 in South Carolina and the upstate, the second leading cause of death behind accidental injury is suicide. Number 2 cause. It's also the number 2 cause, maybe not number 2, but it is higher than normal for males over the age of 70. So, you know, suicide, depression, mental health is a big issue here in our region, and we convened, starting about 2.5 years ago, all told over 100 organizations that work with mental health to try to see where there were things that we could work on collectively to try to address that issue. And one of the things that we have created from that is this toolkit of resources that includes the behavioral health professional pipeline information, which has one-pagers about 16 different careers that young people can go into related to behavioral health. And we are working with the school districts and with guidance counselors and things of that nature, and also at the college level with the career services offices to try to get people encouraged to go into fields related to behavioral health. And it's very interesting because in the last 8 or 10 years, we've worked not just on this issue, but we also have worked around the K-12 teacher shortage. We've worked with public safety on Safer Upstate initiative, and we've done other work with healthcare and nurses and things of that nature. And all of these fields, what I call the backbone professions, things that have been part of our lives and our society for generations and will be forever if we're going to continue to be have a high quality of life, are all fields that have a number of things in common. One, they don't pay real well. Second, they are not seen as the cool professions. And third, you can go to QT and make more money working as a security guard than you can work as a police officer, and on, other things along those. And they are not the careers that are that our schools and our parents and everybody are talking about for our young people. So we created these, and the Department of Employment Workforce has similar sheets for some of the other professions that I've talked about, because it is important as a society that we have people going into these fields for 20, 30, 40 years from now. Right now, if you want to go see a psychiatrist, it can take you 3 months, maybe longer. Well, imagine if we don't continue increasing the number of people in that field, it could be 6 months or a year. And when we've already got one of the highest depression rates in the country, those are the kind of things that we have got to be trying to impact. The next one is the Behavioral Health Workplace Toolkit. And this is for employers, especially small businesses, after COVID, or during COVID, I should say, we all became, if you supervised any employees, you became a mental health counselor, right? Because you had to see how your employee was doing, how their family was doing, just to make sure that everybody was doing okay. Well, we're not, I'm not a professional in that, and I doubt many of you guys are. And so, we created this toolkit to make it easier for employers to be able to know where the resources are and how they can connect their employees to those resources. Then we have, the big issue around mental health has always been stigma. A majority of us in here are white males over the age of 50. Well, I'm 58. And, I will tell you, and I'm sure most of you experience the same things. When we were growing up, you didn't tell people how you felt, right? Put some dirt on it and keep going. And, so, it was not necessarily encouraged to be, to tell people that, man, I'm having a tough mental day, I'm struggling. And that's not okay. We need to create a culture. And it's changing. Our kids and grandkids are much more attuned to understanding and telling what's going on, in their psychology than those of us who've been around a while. And that's really important as we move forward. So reducing that stigma, having those conversations. And there's a piece on the website that specifically gives some examples of organizations and ways to do that. And then the last one is specifically around a program to create a recovery-friendly workplace. So people who have substance abuse issues or challenges, how to make sure that they can be engaged in the workplace because our unemployment rate's low and everybody needs to have an opportunity for a job. So those are the pieces specifically we're working on in that. In fact, we have a couple workshops coming up in October and November. If anyone is interested, these are specifically designed for employers to be able to help engage employees, engage on how they can work to make their workplace a place that's stigma-free and that they can connect their employees to the resources that are available for them. The second piece we're working on is homelessness and housing. And, affordable housing is an issue everywhere, regardless of whether you're living in Lawrence or in Abbeville or in Greenville. Housing has gotten expensive, and when you connect it to, it is obviously a major cause for homelessness. So we're hosting the second annual Homelessness and Housing Forum at the Gibbs Cancer Center off of Pelham Road on October 22nd to look at barriers to housing affordability. We have some recommendations the group has been working on that event. Then the third thing that we are focusing on is downtown revitalization, and we've been doing these upstate downtown academy tours. We were in Lawrence earlier this year. We're going to be in Clinton in 2016, next year, right? 26. I'm like a decade off. 26. Next spring, we're going to be in Clinton to do a walking tour, but we'll be in Landrum on the 30th of October, and we did Seneca a few weeks ago, and it's really cool. You go to the downtown, and we hear from the leaders in that community about what they're doing, and then we do a walking tour to see kind of where their growth is and what they're doing and how what they're trying to do to grow vibrancy in their communities. And then, as a group, we go to one of the local restaurants and have dinner. So it's a really nice evening. If you're interested, you can go to our website, and we got this one in Landrum's, the last one this year, and then we're going to do Clinton, Clemson, Fountain Inn, not Fountain Inn, Travelers Rest, and in the spring. So it's you get there at 5, we're done by 7:30, it's a nice evening, but that's the last thing that we're focused on. So we have our end of year event. This is always a fun event. I know Courtney's been, and I'm sure some of the rest of you have as well, because this is when we hand out the money for the Elevate Upstate grants. So having done events for a long time, you know kind of what some of the things are that attract people. Well, this event we have a mimosa bar, we have good food, and groups end the day by getting several organizations get checks. So you got alcohol, food, and money. And so, what can go wrong, right? So it's November 19th, and we're having that at the Hyatt downtown in Greenville. So if you're interested, we'd love for you to join us. So I'm going to close with just the concept that it is when we work together that we can ensure that the upstate remains a great place to live, to learn, to do business, and to raise a family. So with that, do we have time for any questions?
Yes.
Yeah. Are there any comments or questions? Yes.
The workforce resilience, or the workshop that you have, are them open to the public or just in top members?
No, all of our events are open to the public. So yeah, the Resilient Upstate workshops are for small businesses, for any organization that has employees that is looking for how you create a culture that values mental health, behavioral health for your employees. Yes, sir.
This past Monday, I spent a day in General Session Court in Spartanburg County watching the discussion with the judge about whether or not the development in Spartanburg County was in compliance with the South Carolina Heritage Act. And I don't know how much you keep up with it, but the project was going to hire 1,000 workers for 2 years. It's the second largest development down in Spartanburg history in the downtown area. And what I noticed was that had just a few phone calls been made, had a little cooperation been shown, the entire episode with the lawsuit could have been avoided. But had there just been a little bit of common courtesy shown towards the historical preservation.
You're talking, so for those who don't know, you're talking about the
bell
tower.
tower.
The bell tower.
That the developers are going to tear down. Seriously, there's no doubt about it. Judge Lee's on the side of preservation. Had the entire project stopped. But it just seems to me that had they just researched the matter, made a few phone calls, brought a few people in, said this is what the law says, they could have avoided all.
You know what's really interesting?
The entire project.
Yeah, what's really interesting about that is that Spartanburg has been amazingly good at collaboration and bringing people together and getting everybody in the room and moving their community forward. And how they didn't, I know. And so how that didn't happen in this particular issue, I have not been involved, but I've been very surprised because I thought from the very beginning that what they were going to do was take the tower down and move it somewhere else, because that seemed to make a lot of sense, and that's ultimately what they're going to do. But how they didn't just decide to do that at the beginning, I'm not involved, so I don't know what the mindset was. But what it shows is that, I mean, you're exactly right. That should have been, and I would have thought in Spartanburg, of all places here in the upstate, that those phone calls would have been made and that would have been done. So I'm sure there were things, and you may know more about it than I do, of why that wasn't done that way, but it was certainly, should have been, and is a good example of why you bring folks together and you build relationships. And I was really surprised that didn't happen in that case, because it would have, it just, the ultimate outcome could have been the first outcome instead of having to go through the courts. No question. Yes, sir.
Can you identify one or two demands or challenges that this upstate growth has put on our state?
Well, I think the biggest issue that we're all dealing with, well, I hate to say biggest because, you know, there's so many issues that are of significance, but the biggest challenge is housing affordability for people at any level, whether you live here in Lawrence or Clinton or, you know, Greenwood or Greenville. I mean, it is. I mean, if you guys have kids or grandkids who are trying to find apartments or houses, you know it's hard and it's expensive. I mean, you have to be able to afford, you know, the general expectation is you want to spend less than 30% of your household income on housing. And so right now in Greenville, Spartanburg, and it's not that different in Lawrence, unfortunately, you have to make, as a household, $40 an hour of income if you want to be under 30% of your income going towards your housing. And that's a lot. And so, especially if you're in, you know, in more of a service job, I mean, you know, it's hard. So so housing, affordable housing, because affordable housing is not just about people who are homeless or who are in our lowest economic, place. It is about teachers. It is about firefighters. All the people I talked about earlier are, police officers, nurses, all those fields. You know, if you're making $60,000 or $80,000 a year, you're still barely able to afford to be under the 30% for housing. So we're having that event in a couple weeks with some, there's a lot of folks are working on that issue, but there's so many factors that are out of our control. The cost for materials for any kind of building has increased at huge levels in the last 5 years. And so, it's making that price point for any housing. That's why you see signs for most of the new developments and stuff, it's homes in the 300s. I remember, as many of you do, when it would be homes in the 70s, like 70,000. Now it's like 300,000, and that's the lowest. So that's the issue that, as a country, especially in places that are growing like South Carolina and the South, that's the issue we've got to figure out. Because if we're not helping in some way to level that playing field, there will be a lot more 40-year-olds living in basements of their parents. And with that, that's not fun. I have a 20-year-old. I'm pretty sure I don't want him living in my basement in 20 years. But with that, Cathy, I think
Thank you so
we're done.
much.
Yeah.
And did we have someone, all of our speakers sign a book? So if you would, do you have a pen?
Absolutely.
Okay.
No, I don't. But absolutely, I will sign.
You can sign that and we donate to a local home.
Thank you. I love this tradition.
Thank you for being with us today. The only thing I have have remaining as far as a reminder and announcement, I know we have the sign-up sheet going around for the duck race. So if you have not had the opportunity, Phil, did you sign up for all spots? Did you sign up for all spots? So if you haven't had an opportunity to sign up, and you can, please do so. I'll leave this right up here at the top, on the table. And if you would, just stand with me, please, as we share our four-way test of the things that we think, say, and do. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it be goodwill and bear friendships? And is it beneficial to all concerned? And our motto? Service above self.